welcome back to another episode of Slay Now. This is Maureen Montagne.
And this is Samantha Panlilio. Slay Now is your ultimate guide in facing each day ready to slay.
First things first, let's introduce our Fab Find of the Day.
The item that we love that we think you'd love too.
And today's Fab Find of the Day is
a portable luggage scale.
Yes, this is a lifesaver. Today, we're talking about heavy things, and we want to make your life lighter and easier. So this will help you avoid those super inconvenient luggage fees.
Definitely. And what I like about this item is that it has a clip here, so it just goes on the luggage handle.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And there you have it. You can weigh it down. And what's great about this traveling essential is that I feel that airports or airlines rather, they always overcharge with luggage.
Yes, by the kilo.
By the kilo, especially if you're traveling in Europe. And so I think this is very, very handy.
Yes, and you can get this on any e-commerce platform. So spend a little. I think this one was 300 pesos.
Not bad.
And save a lot at the airport.
Exactly.
So that's our Fab Find of the Day.
A portable luggage scale.
That's really something that we cannot live without as frequent travelers. Right, mga madam?
Very true. And so if you're streaming this episode on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And also don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out.
We are also on Spotify, so please give us a follow on Spotify. And we would like to thank our special sponsor for today's episode, Fridays Puerto Galera.
The best resort in Oriental Mindoro. Again, thank you Fridays Puerto Galera for making this show possible.
Sam, we've been listening to our mga madam and their comments and concerns, and we heard that our audio quality could be improved. So today we are introducing some new microphones because we love you, we hear you, and we want to do better just for you, mga madam.
That's right. And of course, Mal, we only want what's best for our mga madams out there. And as they say, your wish is our command.
Yes, so keep those comments coming, and we are here for you.
Definitely. And so moving forward to our episode today, Mao, I think it's safe to say that we both have had our fair share of love and loss, but hopefully more love than loss.
Yes. I think love and grief are two sides of the same coin. So today we are going to have a bit of a deeper conversation with an expert, and we want to help all of our mga madam out there navigating the different phases of our lives.
Definitely. And so with that, we invited a clinical psychologist to help us understand the real life issues and emotions that come with grief.
Yeah. She is also a familiar face to some of our mga madam because she is one of the resident trio tagapayo on the hit TV show Face to Face on TV5. Please, let's welcome on Slay Now, Dr. Camille Garcia. Hi.
Welcome, Dr. Garcia.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making the time to come out and be on our show.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's so nice to be with beautiful ladies.
Oh,
And beautiful
thank you.
women.
You are beautiful yourself.
Yes,
Dr.
our
Garcia.
Miss Cubao is
Miss
here
Cubao.
today.
Pwede pang sumali. Wala nang age limit.
Anyway, it's so nice.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. So, to start off, can you define what grief is?
Okay, when you say grief, probably somebody will say it's about sadness. Actually, it's not.
Yes.
It's a multifaceted process wherein it involves not only feelings, but also it's a necessary way for you to be able to cope with the loss.
right.
So it can be anger, there will be guilt, confusion. So a lot of things will be, when you talk of grief, it is something normal.
Right.
So you will not say that it's a mental health issue.
Right.
It's more of how you'll be able to cope when you lost somebody.
So true.
This was definitely an episode that I wanted to make this season because grief and loss, it's something that we all experience throughout our lives, whether we're a child, whether we are in our old age, everybody loses something. And I think we all experienced that during the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you feel when oftentimes people are encouraged just to stay quiet, especially with Filipino culture? You know, if it's a tough subject, people, you know, they only want to be there for the good times. Do you have any encouraging words for somebody who wants to express their feelings but is struggling to connect with their circle or family?
Okay, when you talk of grief, you're not supposed to tell it's okay.
Right. Because it's not okay.
It's not okay.
It's not.
But and then somebody will even say na you can go on with life, you can
Yeah.
move on. No, it's actually when you talk of grief, it's not moving on.
Yeah.
You have to really face it because when you talk of grief, it's actually a process.
Right.
Sometimes you'll be in you'll be telling yourself, why is this happening to me?
Right.
Well, how come these things are you even question
Yeah.
if you have a God or parang ganun.
Right.
So it's so difficult because you question, and then it's so difficult when you accept.
Right.
And definitely there's no timeline.
Yes.
Unlike when you say it's a mental health issue, there is a timeline.
Right.
But it can really cause a possible mental health issue if you will go into depression.
Right.
So more or less, how you will be able to support somebody who lost somebody, that's the time that you'll be able to say, you can cope with the grief.
Yes.
Because grief can happen years. And then it doesn't involve not only emotion, but it involves the ability for you to be able to adjust to the situation. It's not moving on. Remember, it's not moving on or letting go.
Mhm.
It's a process.
I see. And I know in Filipino culture there are 3 terms, no, when it comes to grief. It's grief, bereavement.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Bereavement and mourning. So what are the main differences between these 3?
Okay, when you say it in Tagalog, when you say grief, it's
Yeah.
kalungkutan, pero sobrang kalungkutan,
Yes.
extreme.
Yes.
And then when you say bereavement, it's for pagdadalamhati.
Wow, lalim. Kaya mo yun?
Super lalim. And then when you say mourning, it's pagluluksa. Okay, when you talk
Pagluluksa.
of grief, it's an internal response to loss.
Right.
When you talk of bereavement, it's the state of somebody who experienced the loss.
I see.
And when you talk of mourning, it's the external response to loss.
I see. And all of these things happen at the same time.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
actually when you talk of this 3 concept, it involves starting with grief,
Yes.
and then eventually it ends up with mourning.
I see.
So here in the as a Filipino, usually we call babang loksa.
Babang
So
loksa.
it's actually after a year you end the mourning, but still the grief is there.
I see. Wow.
I feel like grief can sometimes also come in waves.
Yeah.
You know, you might hear a song and you're taken back and you need to reprocess. And when we get these memories, you know, it can be very tough. And I think healing is also, everyone's journey is so different. Some people want to be quiet. Some people want to speak about it. For our viewers at home that have perhaps lost a loved one during the pandemic or have lost a loved one recently, do you have any recommendations on perhaps support groups, or if there's somebody who's feeling alone, who can they talk to? Of course, a specialist, but also within our community. Are there other options? What do you recommend?
Okay, first and foremost, you have your primary support group, which is the
Yes.
family.
Right.
And then when you talk about have loss in somebody, you're not supposed to talk about the sad moments, the pain involved.
Right.
You're supposed to more or less talk about the memories, the happy memories.
Right.
Celebrate.
Right.
Yeah,
life,
because
right?
that's the way you'll be able to process that and accept that he
Yes.
died.
I guess acceptance is the first step, no?
Yeah, but actually, before you accept, it's so difficult because the
Yes.
process of grief. If you're going to talk about the grief in terms of the steps involved,
Yes.
the last step is actually acceptance.
Acceptance. Wow.
Yeah.
And you would think that it's the first, no?
Yeah, actually, no, it's not.
So traditionally speaking, we hear of the 5 stages of grief. Do you believe in these, and what are these stages?
Okay, when you talk of the 5 stages of grief, actually, it's a way for you to be able to process the grieving. So first, you will say there's a denial stage. When you
Right.
talk denial stage, of course, you say,
Can't believe.
I can't believe.
Yeah.
Why did he die? Parang
Yeah.
ganon. And then you question. You even question God. Why it happened to you?
Yeah.
So, but then there are a lot of people who does not undergo this kind of process. So people have a different way of doing the grieving process. In fact, when you talk about religion or even their cultural beliefs, there are some people that the following day there's no grief at all.
Wow.
So probably after saying that you grieve for 24 hours, there's acceptance already.
Right.
Parang ganon.
But do you think that these people are not practicing those 5 stages of grief because they are not allowed to or they're restrained to do so? For
There are
most
people
cases?
who are not allowed to do the grieving
Right.
process, and there are a lot of people who can grieve after several hours or even days, and then eventually they can go on with their
Really?
life.
If I may ask, like, do these people have some sort of like special mental power to be able to grieve that quick?
Not really, because actually, if there are cultural beliefs or even
Right.
when you talk about their religion, they already have this parang they know that after life, this is what happens. So,
Right.
after when you say the beginning, death is actually
The beginning
the
of the
beginning
real
of,
life.
of your life,
Right.
afterlife.
Right.
So their faith is what makes them able to accept it.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
right.
What's interesting to me is I've met several people who I think if you experience death as a child, it's more not easier to accept, but it's a part of your view of the world. But I've had several friends who lose a loved one, maybe a partner, let's say a husband, a wife, or a parent later in life. And oftentimes when it's in a tragic way, it's almost as if it's
Like they saw it coming?
it's a different part of their life, like the old me versus the new me, a life without a special
personal
person,
Right,
without
right.
a connection. When you go through such a shattering experience where you feel like a part of your life is taken away, you know, and you feel yourself going towards a downward spiral, is there anything that you can recommend to do when you're feeling alone, when you're feeling, again, shattered?
Yeah. Okay, first, when you lost somebody, it really depends. Like, if you lost a parent, of course, there's a different form of grief. And then when you say that it's your child who first died, then you are, among the Filipinos, they will say, it's supposed to be
Ako
the
muna
parent.
dapat.
Ako muna
Yeah.
bilang the parent, not the anak.
Yes.
Para, so the grief is always, para it's always there.
Yes.
Anniversaries, death,
Right.
birthdays, special occasions, you always remember. So parang for you to be able to say, even though you're grieving, it doesn't follow that you can move on.
Right.
Because it's more of saying the ability of this person to adjust,
Right.
and not necessarily about talking of feelings and emotions connected with grief.
Right.
Because sometimes when you talk of grief, it's not necessarily about being sad. It's more of the anger.
Yes.
Right. I feel like that always keeps coming back, no? The anger.
Yeah. Especially when there are anniversaries, death anniversaries.
Right.
So, and then you're reliving the memories of what happened, how tragic it
Mhm,
is. Parang ganun. Yeah, and then you even come to a point that you will say, it's because I allowed my child to go there.
Right,
That's why.
right.
Parang ganun. Yung guilt feelings.
Parang
so
you find
first.
new purpose with someone
Yeah.
else's loss or someone
Yeah.
else's death. No?
Yes.
But do you find that most people who get over grief are more high functioning? Let's just say if they haven't accepted it yet and they show signs where they're still celebrating the anniversaries, etc., which you consider is not really moving on. Do you find that these people are more high functioning or less functioning when it comes to work and their career and their new life journey?
Okay, even though you're grieving, everybody can be high functioning.
Right.
So it doesn't follow that if you're grieving, you cannot function.
Right.
Because if you cannot function, that's when the possibility of having a mental health issue comes in.
I see.
So there might be depression,
Yes.
there might be anxiety involved, parang ganon. And then you might have a breakdown and then end up having a mental disorder.
Do you find that's very common?
Yes.
Really?
Here in the Philippines, probably if you're not able to express that grief alone, or even if you cannot express your emotions
Mhm.
because somebody died, there is usually a breakdown.
Right.
So parang they will say, ay, nag-breakdown, parang ganon. And then it's not about yung parang, yung being hysterical. Sometimes it comes to a point na parang, ay, natulala. And then eventually, they'll end up na pag nag-escalate na siya into depression, and then there will be
Mhm.
psychotic episodes. It's so, parang depressing to the point na they will have a mental health issue,
Right.
and then it becomes chronic and possibility na parang progressive na yung schizophrenia. Parang
Right.
ganun.
I just feel like it's so taboo here in the Philippines for people to just say like, oh, it's been months, like hindi ka pa ba nag-move on, right?
Yeah, actually, that's the parang the toxic part.
Right.
Because when you say na parang kaya mo yan, actually hindi natin kaya.
Yeah.
But that's one way parang pag sinabi kaya mo yan, hindi.
Yeah.
We cannot. It's a process.
Yes.
So you don't tell people na kaya mo yan. And
Yeah.
then another way of saying na parang be strong, hindi.
How to be strong when your loved one isn't here anymore, no?
So parang it's so difficult when you say,
Yeah.
and a lot of people will say, kaya mo yan. So
Yeah.
okay lang yan.
Yeah.
And actually it's not. That's
Yeah.
part of parang yung Filipino culture na akala nila that's one way of saying or comforting a person who's grieving.
Right.
Actually it's not.
Right. So true.
Yes, I actually heard of an example where a woman was always talking about her loss at church, how much pain she was feeling, how she felt alone, and her priest actually told her that she needed to stop talking about it. And because of that, she not only lost her partner, but she lost her faith. She didn't feel comfortable going to church anymore, and it really isolated her. So what would you give as advice to a woman like that who feels like no one wants to hear her? Where can she connect with others?
Okay, first, when somebody is grieving, the best thing for that person to be able to move on is to listen and understand what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just sympathizing. It's for you to be able to understand. Because
Right.
when you talk, when you say that you listen to this person, one thing that you can say something nice to this person is, I am here for you. If you need help, if you need somebody to listen to, I am here. So that's one way parang to do the processing of grief.
Right.
Kaya when you say that this individual, parang sasabihin niya, parang you lost faith, it happens.
Yeah.
Kasi people cannot understand the grieving process years.
Yeah.
Even up to the point that you're in your deathbed, still there's a possibility that you're grieving because you lost somebody, and parang they will say, kunin mo na lang ako, parang
Yeah.
ganon. They
Yeah.
will say that.
So true.
Have you experienced loss in your personal lives, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest loss that I had, I've said this online before, but I competed in a pageant 2 years ago?
3.
3? Oh my gosh, we're getting older.
Almost 5.
Yeah, so I competed in Miss Grand, and I came back because I came back after competing, and unfortunately I didn't place. So obviously, I think I was grieving the loss of a dream during that time, and also at the same time I was going through a breakup. And the week after that, my sister-in-law, who was only 29, passed away. So I think that was the moment where that was the first time I really told myself, and I told my mom, I was like, hey, I need help. Like, I don't know how to process my emotions. I felt so numb.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I felt that. And I didn't know which one to be more sad about, the pageant, the ex-boyfriend, or the sister-in-law, right? But at the same time, during that time, I had to be there for my brother.
Uh-huh.
So parang everything else didn't matter because this is a matter of life and death, no? But I would say that also during that time, I didn't really know how to support him. And instead, what you advised, I was just like, I'm here for you. But I was there physically, and that's the best that I could do at that time.
Hey, that's
So,
good. That's
yeah.
good. Because that's the only way for you to be able to help somebody whom this person can listen to,
Yes.
whom they will be able to acknowledge and validate why she's always crying,
Yes.
why she's always saying that, parang, I'm hopeless, I'm helpless, parang
Yes.
ganon.
But I've definitely been there in like, it felt like a black hole. And I felt that no one could understand me kasi sabay-sabay lahat eh.
Mhm.
I mean, it was so hard to even open up to anyone who wasn't personally close to me. But I would say that my grieving process, based on the new information that we have today, I got over it in a week. And so I started going out, hanging out with friends. But I realized that 6 months after that, that's when I
Correct.
truly moved on.
When you talk about the healing process, it's usually 6 months.
6 months.
And after 6 months, and you cannot function. That's the time that there's a
You
possibility
need help.
that you're having mental
Yes.
health issues and you need help.
Yes. Yes.
But the problem is a lot of people will say, I'm okay,
yeah.
and they have no insight that there's something wrong.
Right. Right.
So that's the trouble.
Yeah.
Especially here, among
Yeah.
the Filipinos.
Yeah.
Ganun.
At least I'm in the timeline.
Yes.
6 months. How about you? Did you go through any loss or grievances recently?
I've lost 3 of my 4 grandparents.
Okay.
I think for me it was a bit easier to process
Mhm.
because I was young when 2 of them passed.
Passed.
Actually, I was young for all 3. However, they were older in age.
Right.
So for me, it was more of just witnessing my parents go through it.
Right.
And of course, I felt a lot of sympathy, empathy. But for me, I haven't had someone that wasn't elderly or sick
Mhm.
leave yet, and I hope I don't experience.
Right,
You know,
right.
nobody wants that. But I've also heard, I've had a lot of friends lose loved ones,
Mhm.
and they oftentimes say, I hate it when people say everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, are there?
Yeah.
these
Why
are-
would that happen? You know.
These are such taboo things when people
Right.
don't know what to say.
Right.
You know, just move on. Like you said, kayan mo yan. Just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, do you have anything else? Of course, celebrating the life of the person we lost, but do you think, these are taboo things to say to someone grieving?
Yeah. When you say everything happens for a reason is one of the toxic words that you're going to hear from somebody, especially relatives.
Right.
Totoo.
Right.
Because what is best probably is saying that what is happening now, do you think it's best for you? More of the comforting words, like,
Right.
what can I do for you?
Yes.
What do you
yes.
need at this point?
Yes.
And probably, oh, you need help. Can I cook for you? If you
Yeah.
have, if you cannot cook at this time,
Yeah.
or if you need somebody to look at your house, go
Yeah.
on a vacation,
Right.
something like that.
I guess the best is to just be there for the person,
Yeah,
no?
Because
Yeah.
that's the best thing for you to be able to do. And then if ever he or she wanted to go to the cemetery to visit the
Samahan mo.
yeah, parang it's
Yeah.
okay eh. Rather than yung parang sasabihin mo na, yung phone ko lang, no? Hindi kaya.
Yeah,
Hindi yung
yeah.
mga ganun lang. It's best na parang the presence of somebody na parang, ay, you're
You're
caring
with
for the
someone.
Yeah, and then you're comforting her.
Yeah.
It's best. Parang ganun.
Wow. What other toxic lines do we have in Filipino culture besides everything happens for a reason when it comes to loss?
Like, when you say, kaya mo yan.
Kaya mo yan.
Kaya mo yan, parang, and then parang, another thing is parang, uy, so ano yan, be strong, kasi ano naman eh, you can move on, yan, move on.
Yeah.
Hindi.
So
Hindi,
true.
Not move on.
Yeah.
Or parang let go, you cannot let go.
Yes.
Especially yung mga memories. Kaya nga, di ba, when you talk of yung they have pasyam, you have 40
Yes.
40 days after, you have the babang luksa.
Mhm.
Kaya nga you talk of the memories, the good memories. And then sometimes, when you have a parang small group, you talk about it, it's
Mhm.
okay eh. Parang, it's one way for you to be able to debrief
Yes.
this person na parang she's going through this grieving process, and then you're the one helping her
Yes.
without a mental health professional.
I see. A random question popped into my head also. You know how, okay, let's say you lost a loved one. Where do you draw the line where, okay, you lost this person, you are reliving a lot of good memories with them, which is healthy, but where do you draw the line when you're just overpraising someone that you lost? Could that also be unhealthy?
Yes, there's a possibility that it becomes unhealthy when you are no longer doing the regular things that the
Right.
routine works.
Right.
And then definitely it's always parang emphasizing, I'm doing this, that kasi parang it's one way for me to remember. And then parang all the item, yung mga
Small
clothes
items,
ganun,
yeah.
tapos it's rotten na, tapos
Right.
mold na and everything, tapos the house parang, no, I cannot let go. Sabi ganun, parang you have to repaint the house
Right,
because
right.
it's always one way for me
Kasi
to
there's a
remember.
memory with
Oo,
this.
and then
yeah.
parang, this gift, yung
Yeah.
parang broken TV, tapos sasabihin mo, there's something special with that
Right.
TV. Parang, sira na eh.
Yeah, true. But so, Dr. Garcia, how would you advise this person to kind of stop doing those things rather, or how to move past that stage, if it is a stage?
Okay, first, they will not go to a mental health professional.
Right.
So it should be somebody, friends,
I
who will be
see.
able to support and say, I think there's something parang you need help na.
Yeah.
Parang ganun. And then when they will be able to realize that they
Mhm.
really need help,
Mhm.
then they can undergo counseling, the
I
grieving
see.
counseling.
I
It's
see.
actually counseling for grief.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I'm sure there
ganun.
was a lot. Yeah.
And then during that concept, parang one way for you to be able to parang a brief lang for the counseling sa grief. Sometimes parang you can do the more or less parang may morning session din.
Mhm.
Parang ito yung coffin. So what do you want na to put in that small coffin na ginawa yung box. Tapos
Wow.
lalagay mo doon parang
Letters,
parang mga letters. Tapos and then
memorabilia.
ganun.
Wow.
Tapos and then, what do you want to do? So, ganun, i-bury mo ba siya? Or
Yeah.
we'll burn it? Parang ganun.
Wow.
May session din talagang, because it's one part of yung tinatawag nating existential psychology. So
I
that's
see.
why you'll be able to know how to process even you, because among Filipinos, when you talk of that, parang in a normal thing, no, but why are you talking about death? Parang
Yeah,
gano'n. Di ba
yeah.
sa atin super, ayaw talaga when you
Mhm.
talk of death. And then when you talk of, parang sasabihin, let's buy parang funeral plan, yung mga gano'n-gano'n, ayaw din.
Yeah, yeah.
So, bakit? Wala namang mamamatay eh.
Yeah.
Parang gano'n.
Yeah.
So, it's so hard. It's so difficult now. Probably not now because of the COVID. It's easier now to sell those plans.
Right.
Unlike before.
Right.
It's so difficult.
Very taboo.
But now it's more or less somebody already have yung parang mga plans for
Yeah.
that, parang funeral, mga services.
Yes.
Unlike before, it's so difficult to sell those things. But now, more or less, some Filipinos are more aware and
More open.
and
Yeah.
realistic.
Makes sense.
I think one of the most inspiring things I've ever seen in my life was when a friend actually lost their baby. It was due to a very rare heart condition. And of course, they grieved, but they set up the Riker Foundation in Arizona in the US. And earlier we said grief and love are two sides of the same coin. And I do find it very, again, inspiring when people can take that loss and turn it into change. They can put that energy into fundraising. They can put that energy into raising awareness, into starting this foundation that helps other children
Mhm.
to get the proper care they need, the proper tests. So I also think if you are longing for connection, it's really good to reach out to organizations close to your heart that you can really pour selflessly into instead of holding in that energy. You
Mhm.
can put it towards good use.
Definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people do books. Yes, they write. They even have parang paintings
Right.
that involves yung mga ganyan. So it's also nice.
To
Probably
have an outlet.
Yeah, to have an outlet for that because it's one way. Not only it is a distraction, but rather it will be able to help you go on.
Heal.
Yeah, heal. Actually, the
Yes.
healing process of writing.
Yeah.
Parang especially for yung if you lost a baby, parang you can have parang mga angel books. Mga
Right.
ganun.
Right.
I think that's very fulfilling when you
Mhm.
can see that your giving can give others purpose and help.
Mhm.
So I really admire anyone and everyone who's ever, used their situation to help others. I think that's very selfless.
Right. And I also want to say that, when we talk about grief and loss, I feel that there's not a certain boundary to where it's necessarily losing someone to death, but
No.
also grief and loss can be losing a job or
A dream.
Yeah,
Yes,
a dream,
definitely.
a boyfriend,
Your hair.
your hair. Depressing rin yun. If I lose my hair. But yeah, but what's the most common reason, aside from people losing loved ones, on why they have to go to counseling?
Probably not only about broken relationships.
Okay.
Usually it's something common now. Even
I
for
see.
among mga young adolescents, parang
Yes.
ganun. Even at the age of 14, they felt parang it's the end of the world.
I mean, it really does feel like that naman talaga.
Sometimes.
Safe to say, yeah.
Ganun. And then probably now I have one grieving patient because of a loss of a dog.
Oh,
That's
I
family.
would too. Yeah.
Yeah. Kasi
Yeah.
family eh. Family
True.
na eh.
And they're there every day. They're part of your routine. They're your
Oo.
companion eh.
So, ganun. Parang
Yeah.
meron ako na I experienced one. And then, probably, I can share also the fact that when you experience parang miscarriages
Yes.
and the super hirap.
Also, kasi that deals with hormones, right? It changes the
Yes.
hormones in your
And
body.
then sometimes, and what's so difficult is the fact that you felt guilty. What
Yeah.
happened? Is it my fault? Is
Yeah.
it because parang
Did you
ganun.
eat something?
Actually, miscarriages, I was so shocked at the amount of my friends who have experienced them. My one very good friend, I learned that she suffered 8 miscarriages before she had her first
Oh my
baby.
gosh, 8?
And
Wow.
she told me very randomly, but the more I was speaking about it with my girlfriends,
Yeah.
almost half of them had experienced it and we never talk about it. I had no idea it was so common.
Wow.
No idea, but we just, again, it's one of those taboo topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad, it's unfortunate, so we avoid it, but it's so common.
So true.
Yeah, it's so common. I experienced 2 miscarriages. One,
Oh, yourself.
yeah,
Wow.
one ectopic pregnancy, one, what's this? Blighted ovum. Actually, four miscarriages.
Wow. Do you-
It's so common.
Do you think it has to do with the food today or the environment that we're in? That-
Probably the first one, when they say it's blighted ovum, I would say it's more on the diet, according to the doctor. And then eventually, the next one, you have to undergo a lot of lab tests
Yeah.
for you to be able to detect whether there's something wrong with you.
Right.
So it's so difficult also to face the fact that when you go to doctor and then you, even if you know what's going to happen, parang that's the thing eh. Why you suffer a lot because you don't want to go to the doctor because you know that there might be something wrong with you.
Right. So you'd rather not na lang.
No,
Yeah.
parang ganun. So that's why, parang, oh, you're a doctor na. Tapos, it's so difficult. Actually, it's so difficult to cure a doctor.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to
Right.
face the fact that there's something wrong with them. Even if they know there's something wrong.
Did you go to the doctor? Doctor?
Actually, the first one, no. And then, follow up, oo na. Parang
Yes.
ganun.
Yeah.
Parang series of tests. In fact, when I had my son, di ba usually you have an ultrasound,
Yes.
first and the last, parang ganun. Every month I have ultrasound.
Wow. For sure.
Parang ganun. So, and then you have to go to a high risk pregnancy specialist for you to be able para complete monitoring. Parang
I
ganun.
see. It's so hard to have children nowadays, no? I don't know. It just keeps getting harder and harder.
We act like it's so easy to get pregnant, but in reality, especially the older you get,
Yeah.
it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
quite
because
sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I married late and then I had my son at the age of 37.
Because past 35, it's already considered
yeah.
high risk, right?
High risk na.
Yeah.
High risk. Parang ganun. So, now, parang it's so difficult naman for others to get pregnant. Even at
At a young
young
age.
you know.
Yeah.
Was your husband there for you through all of the ups and downs of
Probably
the
what's
process?
good about this is because my husband is also a psychologist.
Oh,
Sana all.
Sana all.
So parang it's
At
easier for us
least.
to parang in the process itself. And then
Yeah.
since we have psychiatrists, parang nakakatawa, it's a psychiatrist, instead of saying it in front of me, they write letters.
I see.
Parang, oh, you know, it happens, ganun,
Yeah.
parang ganun. Parang there's a
Wow.
realization. So
I
it's
see.
so easy for me. Parang the journey is easier. Although when others talk about it, parang, but when during the ectopic pregnancy, that's one parang very depressing for reason na, you know, it's there already eh.
Yeah.
And parang and then the doctor said, actually it's a 0.2 millimeter to be pushed.
For it to stick.
Yeah.
Diba? That's the term.
Actually, it's alive already, but
Okay.
then you have to remove it because it's not in the
The right
proper
position.
right position.
Yeah.
So parang, and then you say you have to kill it. Parang ganun.
Yeah. It is different.
So yun yung parang, that's one thing different. And then when you say, and when the doctor will say, what will you do? Do you want to drink something and just parang melt it down, or you have it removed? Parang, if you're going to drink something and melt it down, how would you feel about it?
You're right.
But
Parang you're
melting.
poisoning.
Diba?
Yeah, by
It's
choice.
heavy.
Yeah.
So yun yung parang the harder part of grieving.
Yeah.
Parang knowing if you're going to drink something,
Right.
tapos ganun.
Doc, may I ask, was there ever a point after your miscarriage where you said, okay, I've completely healed from this and have moved on? What was that point for you, if there was?
Actually, when the doctor was encouraging me to get pregnant, without having all the other procedures, parang, oh, you don't have to do the raspating. Yung,
Mhm.
parang yung, so why? Because it will be easier for you to get pregnant.
Mm.
So when they said na parang it's okay, parang I felt parang, ay, okay pala. Parang
yeah,
ganun.
parang weight has been lifted.
Parang, yeah.
So the positive reinforcements, letters
Yeah.
from your
Yeah.
friends, these were
Yes.
all things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
helped.
So what is
Healing.
more difficult for me is having patients die because they have been with us for more than 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
Tapos, and then the family will thank me, mental patient will say, thank you. I don't know if the thank you is saying they want to thank us for taking care of their relatives, or are thanking us because they are relieved of their responsibilities.
Right, right.
So, parang I am the one having the grieving process, and then
For
sila
them.
parang sila and then sila parang so super comfortable
Yeah.
because they felt na parang sa wakas.
Yeah. Oh no.
Ganon. So
Yeah.
yun yung difficult
I guess
part
some
lang.
people find comfort in knowing the fact that their loved ones aren't suffering anymore, no? Especially with
yeah.
special cases.
Yeah.
Yung mga
Yes.
ganun. So yun yung mga special cases. Para,
I see.
syempre, parang sa akin, I can no longer cry.
Yeah.
Parang nasanay siya. Parang
Yeah.
nasanay para every year meron eh.
Yeah.
Parang ganun.
That's your job, eh.
Yeah, it's me. And then what's so hard is before what's so hard is the fact that when you tell family, especially yung parang your loved one is going to die,
Mm-hmm.
because it's part of our job
Oh,
to tell
wow.
the relatives na to comfort them na we have to accept the fact that this
Ang hirap nun.
yun.
Sobra.
Can I ask for your mental health? What do you do since you're dealing with a lot of heaviness? Of course, you're an expert, but how do you make sure that you're okay when you're dealing with a lot of darkness and
Mhm.
loss?
I hibernate.
Sleep is the key.
Yeah. But there are times when I say that I cannot go into counseling.
Mm.
And then we make sure that during counseling sessions, even they even tell us how to more or less protect the room, the counseling
Right.
room. So our counseling room is super bright, super full of lights, and then probably more or less we have a lot of distraction techniques.
Right.
When I feel so bad, parang one way for me is to go to the province and then I plant. And then when I plant, usually I say I will put a lot of messages planting.
Oh,
Okay.
Para
so
to bear,
nice.
where I feel pain. Plant.
Right.
Okay. Tapos and then you'll see the tree will grow.
Yeah.
That's a pain tree. Parang
Yeah.
ganun.
Parang it helps relieve
Yes.
of all the... no?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
easy. Actually, it's so difficult because when a lot of psychologists will ask how you do the decompression thing for you to be able to work on counseling every now and then, especially when you do counseling now and helping a lot of children who actually I work for children who were raped
Oh, wow.
by
That's so
relatives.
heavy.
by relatives.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most common. It's someone
This
who's
one is
actually close to the kids.
So it's actually difficult also for the parents. It's a form of grief.
Yeah.
So when you do that, parang I can only take about 2 cases a week.
Yeah. Ang
Because
heavy.
Ang heavy.
Yeah.
Super
And
heavy.
imagining a child opening up to you about such a sensitive topic that he or she shouldn't have even have faced in the first
Yes.
place, no?
Parang ganun.
Very,
Pero it's
very
actually happening.
Yeah.
Ayan, ganun.
Wow. And so if I may also ask Dr. Garcia, since you are a clinical psychologist, how do you also feel about other methods of healing? Because you know how now they have doctors in the aura cleansing, the energies and whatnot. Do you think, do you believe in that?
Alternative healing.
Yeah, alternative.
Yeah.
Sorry for the word.
Even when you talk about psychology and psychiatry, even in psychiatry, they're not only working on this what you call all the thing, the pharma meds. They're also having these alternative medications
Yes.
for that. Like they believe there are some psychiatrists who believe with that what is lacking are vitamins. So instead of giving antipsychotic medications, they have this alternative
Vitamins.
type, vitamins.
Yeah.
And then probably it's more of the holistic approach wherein they undergo yoga,
Yes, yes.
meditations, and everything as part of the healing process. And even the food they
Yes,
eat. Actually,
yes. Like
the nutrition part is
nutritionist,
so important
very
Yes.
true.
because there are some most of there are foods that you can take to lessen anxiety and
Right,
depression, parang
right.
ganon.
Wow, very
I-
interesting.
I actually really believe in
Alternative.
just moving your body in general. Like when I've struggled with hard times in my life, when I feel like I can't even get out of bed, I push myself just to get a bit of sunshine, just to move my body, get those happy hormones. Otherwise, I'll just rot in bed.
Yeah.
I try not to think of it as discipline, like, oh, I'm struggling, I need to force myself. I try to think of it as devotion. I love myself. I don't want myself to suffer, so I'm going to push.
Yes.
I'm going to invest in my health, in my
Yeah.
fitness, in connecting with friends, even if I don't want to.
Yeah. What?
Just because when I'm feeling down.
With me?
Get
No.
out. But I think, you really, even if you're focused on the loss of something else, it's always good to look back at yourself and fill your own cup.
Yeah. Also feed yourself and also take the initiative to go ask for help, seek for
Yeah.
help, no?
Because
Yeah.
self-care is not being selfish.
Yes.
Remember
No,
that.
Not
it's
at all.
necessary.
Yeah.
It's very important, especially
Yeah.
for your mental health. And when you say that you wanted to get up, probably one of the best things that you have to do when you are in grieving is the fact that you have enough sleep and you should
Yes.
eat
Yes.
and you should exercise.
If I
Those
may
things.
share, Doc, one time, sometimes before, I was very, very depressed from a breakup. And I would wake up, and obviously, you've been crying all night, and then you wake up in the morning, but then I would look at myself in the mirror. It's kind of vain, but I would say, at least I'm skinny. Because if I lose so much weight when you're depressed,
Because somebody
positive
because others
Silver
are stress
lining.
eating.
Yeah. Silver lining.
I remember when I went through my biggest heartbreak
Yeah.
ever. I think I was 21. I was also crying every day, wouldn't eat. I would just like get up. I think my posture was really the big
Yeah.
thing. My aura was like a sad cloud.
Yeah.
And I remember I would just cry. And then one morning I woke up, I went to the kitchen, my mom was crying. And I was like, Mom, what's wrong? And I'll never forget, she was like, when you hurt, I hurt. And that day I was like, okay, I'm done. But even seeing like, oh my God, I'm so focused on myself. I didn't realize I was making my mom
Yeah.
sad.
Sad.
So that really was like, okay. After that, I was like, okay, I'm getting out of bed. I'm getting dressed. I'm going to focus back
Yeah,
on me. Because
yeah.
like, I'm not trying to hurt my mom.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
sometimes you forget the effect we have on others.
So true. So true.
So I'm sorry, Mom. I love you. I never meant to make you sad. I'm okay. Wow, best production team. But yeah, so also be mindful. Sometimes our struggles can become other people's struggles.
So true.
Because I was down for a month
Yeah.
of just the most negative. And I'm such a radiator. What I feel, the room feels.
Facts.
And I don't mean it to be that way. I'm
Even
just,
with your facial expressions.
Yeah. So I know if I'm in a bad mood, I try not to be around
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so emotional.
You don't want to transfer that energy also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So be mindful.
Yeah. I recently went to a healing house maybe a month or two ago. And I think it really helped because my aunt reached out to me. She was like, parang your aura has been so heavy. She's like, I don't know if it's with work or you're going through something personal, but I think you should go and see this person. So it was her Christmas gift to me. And it really helped her. I mean, obviously, when I first got there, I was quite skeptical. So I'm Christian, so I never, opened my mind to these things. But it was harmless because they don't tell you about your future, etc. And when she cleansed me and then taught me some tricks, this one, no, this is the trauma trigger. So if you keep clicking it, it makes your body relax and you're not on survival mode. Right, that really helped. Yeah, so whatever works for you, I think you should go for it.
Yeah, there's
No.
nothing wrong as long as you don't take medications that are not prescribed.
Yeah, of course.
Because there are a lot of people, especially among Filipinos, when they say, I took this medication and it made me heal, parang ganon. And di ba, parang they're not going to doctors or basta parang word
Basta
of mouth,
recommended.
basta recommended,
Yeah.
take nila yun. Parang, tapos
So
and then
true.
something bad pala rather than something good will happen to them. Parang
So
ganon,
true.
ganon.
So it's important to seek professional advice.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. But when you talk of alternative means, like the holistic approach of healing, okay lang yun.
Yeah.
No problem with that.
As long
Kasi
as it's
sometimes,
part.
because some people respond to it positively
Mhm.
and it's more effective among people who do not take medications
Right,
or who
right.
wanted yung mga ganun process.
So it's really a case-by-case basis,
Yes.
safe to say. Wow. So to sum up this episode, Dr. Garcia, maybe you could give us, our audience rather, some advice on how to process their emotions and thoughts through grief.
Okay, first and foremost, probably for you to be able to understand, grief is not sadness. Because when you talk of sadness, parang you will say na it's about depression. But actually, when you talk of grief, it is one way for you to be able to adjust of having lost somebody or parang broken-hearted. Next, always remember that death is the continuation of life. When you say that you'll be able to accept the fact that after life there is death, then definitely you will be able to process everything in a healthy way rather than yung parang soak yourself into depression and then eventually end up having a mental health issue. So just remember, you have your primary support group, which is your family. You have friends, you have relatives, you can talk anything to them rather than parang
Bottling.
self-absorbed tapos and then end up exploding tapos and then it's no longer about grief and it's depression.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you, Doc. I actually really appreciate that you're
Yeah.
able to talk about such a delicate, heavy
Mhm.
topic with a smile. I think that
Yeah.
says everything we need
Yeah.
to know about you as
Yes.
a person. You're positive, and the fact that you can navigate such a difficult road. Thank you. I think
Yeah.
the lessons that you've taught us today are really invaluable.
Definitely. Very, very inspiring.
I very appreciate that so much. But it's of course, yeah, definitely a lot of people cannot absorb when you talk about grief and death. But then having this episode, probably they'll be able to understand na parang it's a process.
Yes.
And don't see it something na parang not normal. It's
Right.
a normal process. Remember
So
that.
true. And everyone goes through it eventually.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's take a break from our discussion and play our favorite game, Slay or Wale.
In this game, we will read a list of statements that we need to react with either slay or wale. Slay if we agree or support the statement, and wale if we don't.
And if you say slay, we like to snap.
Slay.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
All right.
yep. So for today's category is me, my thoughts, and I.
All right. So please say slay or wale whether you agree with this statement. Grief is an extreme form of sadness.
Wale.
Wale.
Wale. Yeah, remember I said before,
Yes.
it's not sadness. It's a multifaceted
True.
process.
Very true.
Yeah.
Next statement. I have to process grief on my own.
Wale.
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 You cannot.
Yeah. You need a support system, right?
Yes. Slay or wale, time will help me recover from my loss.
Ay. Not at all times. Not at all times.
Mhm.
It can be slay or wale. Because sometimes when you talk of grief, it's a long process.
Mhm.
And when you talk of time, of course, they will say time will heal all wounds, but not necessarily about grief.
Ah, I see. That's a good point.
Very true.
Yeah. I always thought time heals all. Hindi pala.
No.
Okay, good to know. Okay, Doc, slay or wale? I can help my friends and family who are also grieving like me.
Slay.
Slay.
She said slay. Bakit?
Slay. Probably because of the fact that friends and family, they're the ones who will be able to support you.
So true.
So that's the one. So when they're grieving like you, they it can help.
Yes, especially if you can relate.
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
All right, slay or wale? The first person who can help me is myself.
Yes. Slay.
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 Okay, slay or wale? Grieving is just a season and will eventually pass or change.
Wale.
Wale. Confident.
Yeah, of course. Because when you say grieving, it's not a season. Probably even it will take years
Yeah.
for you to be able to say every season. Imagine
Yes.
every season. When you talk of anniversaries, birthdays, you always grieve.
So true.
Because you always remember.
So true.
Mhm.
So true.
Slay or wale? It's okay to disconnect and heal on your own terms.
Not at all times. So I will say that. Slay in some terms. But
Yes.
when you talk of, when I say wale, you can disconnect in a particular
Area of your
period
life.
of time. But then when you say disconnect, there's a possibility for you to have
Fall into depression.
fall into depression or escalate into something else with mental health issues, because there's a possibility that if it can trigger possible genetic predisposition for depression, for impulse control disorder.
Right.
When I talk of impulse control disorder, it can mean that you'll succumb yourself to alcoholism,
Right.
shopping,
Addictions.
addiction,
Shopping.
I have shopping.
I'm right there with you.
Ganun.
All right. Thank you, Doc Garcia, for participating in our game. It was such a joy to have you.
As we end our episode, it's now time for a final segment, which we like to call Share and Slay. So, Doc Garcia, if you have any last final words for our viewers, for our mga madams.
Okay, mga madams.
Love
Okay,
it.
mga madams. It's always, remember, grief, it's something normal. Don't feel bad when you say that you're grieving for a long time. When you talk about grief, it's a way for you to adjust when you lost somebody, or when you are brokenhearted, or any loss for that matter. And remember, it's not bad to feel sad.
Mhm.
It's something okay. And always just say to stay positive, in the sense that when you talk about death, it's not a loss. It's a continuation of life.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Miss Universe Cubao. You are our winner.
Pasa na yan.
Yes, crown her now. Well, thank you so much, Doc Garcia. Where can we find you on social media for work? If somebody would like to book a session with you, where can we find you?
Doon lang. Dito lang. We're actually neighbors with Doc Garcia here from the studio.
Hi, we have a Facebook account, the Clinic of the Holy Spirit. It's actually, we have a psychiatric facility. And that facility, we have mental patients who are there for a period of time. And then if you have possibility for us to counsel, we have schedules, and we have our psychiatrist, MWF, 9:30 to 12, and then Saturdays, 2:30 up. And then for counseling, it's supposed to be scheduled because of the fact that we have tapings.
Of course.
So you just have appointments. Our number is 0977771563 47 and then 1.
I was going to say that's a lot of sevens, but you know now where to find Dr. Garcia and her practice. And so that does it here for our episode today of Slay Now with Sam
and Mao. Make sure you show us some love here on Slay Now by subscribing to us on YouTube and Spotify.
You can also follow us on our social media accounts at Samantha Panlilio
and at Maureen Montagne.
Again, we want to give many thanks to Friday's Puerto Galera for making this show possible.
This has been
Slay Now with Sam
and Mao,
your ultimate guide in facing
each day ready to slay. Bye!